Hey, it's Pat and Tom. Another edition of Talk with the Badge. Today, the Sacramento Sheriff's Department, the Marine Enforcement Division. How'd I do?
That works.
That works?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Mike and Derek.
Yes.
And this is your boat.
Yes.
Okay.
And they get to hang out on the water all day long, keeping an eye on you. And what are some of the things with summer coming on that you guys want boaters to understand, to realize, to know?
Well, especially in this past year and the year coming up with COVID and everything, there's a lot of new boaters out. There's only so many outdoor activities that people can do, so we've seen an influx of people on the water. With that, you know, we like to see people coming out, having a good time, but there's also a lot of new boaters, inexperienced boaters.
And another challenge, forgive me for interrupting, is I fish a lot on Folsom Lake, and there's a 5-mile-an-hour limit now on Folsom Lake as of today, May 4th.
Right.
So a lot of people who would be boating out there are out on the river. So that's just adding to the number of boats that are out here.
Exactly. So yeah, we've seen an influx of boating accidents actually last year, and a lot of it is just due to inexperience and crowded waterways. So the main thing is just people that they know kind of what they're doing out here. They know boating safety for them, for their passengers, and they have the right safety equipment on board.
Derek, what are some of your duties out here? What's a typical day like?
So, you know, we actually get asked that question a lot, and it's hard to say because that's one of the nice facets of this job is it's different every single day. But just to cover a couple things that we do. So primarily, our job is boating safety, like Mike touched on. So we cover general enforcement of county, local, and state laws, and then boating safety, making sure people have proper equipment and are abiding by those laws. That aside, we do any kind of derelict vessel abatement. So when people dump their boat in the water, sink their boat, or what have you, we're responsible for getting those out of the water.
Does that happen a lot?
Unfortunately, it does a lot, especially within the southern tip of the county. It's pretty prevalent.
Okay.
So we're also responsible for doing homeland security, asset protection. A lot of times we go to San Francisco Bay and help out during Fleet Week. We've been tasked with helping escort ships into the ports before. This boat's actually equipped with a rad nuke detector, so radiological nuclear detection. It
Wow.
detects if there's those substances on board the boat, and then we could determine, you know, whether it's legally on the boat or illegally. Fortunately, it has not really been an issue up to this point. We're also responsible for doing search and rescue cases if they're water related, doing evidence searches in the water, and pretty much anything that's got something to do with water, we're somehow involved.
That's you.
Yeah.
That's in both of you. So what kind of training do you go through?
So initially that you have to go through 3 basic courses through the California State Department of Boating Waterways. So in the beginning you get sent to a 2-week course in Long Beach, California, and that's a boating maritime operators safety course. And that's for 2 weeks, and that teaches you everything from navigating the boat, how to operate the boat, and laws. And then after that you go to boating under the influence investigation. That's a week-long course, usually locally. And then after that, you do boating investigation course. That's a week course covering boating accidents.
Right.
What are some of the basic rules of the road out here? Some of the very basic for people who are new to boating, who are maybe new to boating on the river, that they should keep in mind? Because I know that when I've been out on the river on the boat, there are marinas that you have to slow down by, but there are also private docks that have 5-mile-an-hour signs, and there are a lot of things that you kind of have to pay attention to as a boater out here in order to be responsible.
Yeah, so on that note, that's probably one of the most common issues we see on the water is wake violations. So the way the law reads is 200 feet from an occupied dock, you cannot cause a wake within that. So this boat is on this dock, it's just an occupied dock at that moment. So within 200 feet, you cannot cause a wake. Or there's specific no wake zones enacted locally. So this is one from that bridge to that bridge. There's no wake within 500 or within anywhere in between these 2 bridges. So that's your common one. If there's swimmers in the water, it's 100 feet. So that's the most common one for sure, because it damages the boat. So when the waves are going and the boats hit the dock, cause a lot of damage. Anyone who's owned a boat knows they're quite expensive to fix.
You guys patrol a lot of water. What are your boundaries, or how far do you go?
Yeah, so on the southern end of the Sacramento County, really that's kind of your Pittsburgh, Antioch area. We have all the way down there near the Antioch Bridge, all the way north up the Sacramento River to just past the airport. Then we have all the American River.
Wow.
We have all of the McCollum and the San Joaquin River out to Stockton and Walnut Grove. And so we have about 300 miles of waterway, about 600 square miles. We also have Folsom Lake and Lake Natomas as well.
Wow. So you're busy, busy, busy. Do you guys come from a strong swimming background or a boating background? Either of those help?
I grew up on the water, in the ocean, on boats, and that's where my love of boats came from, and it drew me to this unit, within the Sheriff's Department for sure. But we do have, regulations that we have to go through in order to become part of the detail, and one of those is swim tests. So
what's that like? I mean, do you have to swim a certain distance in a certain time, or how does that?
We do. You have to tread water. So obviously, one of the most dangerous things out on the water is falling overboard, right? And especially if you're not ready for it. So we do our tests in full uniform, pants, boots,
Okay.
T-shirt, and then we put a 10-foot weight belt to simulate our gun belt. And if we were to fall in, we make sure that all our team members can self-rescue. So we tread water for 5 minutes with 10 pounds on our boat, and then on our belt. And a couple other things. We dive off a platform, and you have to stay underwater for about 15 meters. And that's just to simulate, once again, if you fall overboard, you need to swim under a dock or under your boat to get to safety. And then
What a lot of people don't realize is this Sacramento River is super murky. You can't see very far underwater here at all.
Right.
And this water also, this time of year, Derek, is very cold. You've got snowmelt coming down from the American River mixing in with and even up from Shasta on down. The water's colder this time of year, and you go
Yeah,
it's gonna be a
definitely.
shock.
Absolutely. So definitely in the beginning of the year during winter months, the water's really cold. And unfortunately, we haven't had the best winter, so there's not as much snow melt in the water. So it is cold. Right now it's about 72 degrees, but during the winter months, it's upwards of 55, 60. And if you're not ready for that, it'll take your breath away. Anyone who's jumped in cold water, it takes your breath away right away. And the first thing is you take your breath, which means you suck in water, you start panicking, and then it's kind of all downhill from there.
Right.
So the current, the water temperature, and the lack of visibility are all come into play when it comes into water rescues and drownings and whatnot.
So what about life jackets? Talk about life jacket requirements.
So anyone aged 13 or under 13, you have to have a life jacket. And it has to be a Coast Guard approved life jacket, and it has to fit properly. So we definitely encourage people to wear life jackets because, like we talked about, how the water is murky, it's cold, the currents run, and the currents do definitely pick up. It makes it a lot harder to swim because you're not swimming in a lake or a pool like people are used to.
Yeah.
So we definitely recommend wearing life jackets. If you're on board a boat, every person on board that boat has to have a life jacket. It has to be accessible. They don't have to be wearing it, but they need to be there and ready. Like I said, we encourage wearing it because we respond to a lot of drownings. People that say they were a great swimmer, and then unfortunately, they did succumb to that water and they drowned. So you never know.
one of the worst parts about our job is having to do a recovery of somebody that drowned. And we've unfortunately pulled a lot of people from the river, and not a single one of those was wearing a life jacket.
Yeah.
So this is what we do for a living. We go through our swim tests, but we wear our life jacket every time we're on our boat. So
Well, this water's so different, right, than what you have in your backyard or,
right.
like you were saying, a lake. So
It's unpredictable. There's underwater obstacles that even right now when the water's 72 degrees, if you're out all day in the sun, you're dehydrated, it's 100 degrees out, you may have some alcohol on board, it's still going to shock you when you jump into 72 degree water.
So wear your life jackets. It's important to let people know too that you guys are out here to help.
Yeah.
It's not just, making sure that you're not drinking and your life jackets are up to standards. All right, do you get waved down a lot, or how do people signal you if they are in danger or feel they need help and they see you?
So part of that is you have a sound signal device like I talked about on board your boat. So that could be a horn, a whistle, one of those air horns, the horn on the boat, or you just the, that. You can signal us and then see kind of what's going on. So during holiday weekends, or really all the time, we're out here doing enforcement, but it's for safety, like you mentioned. It's to make sure people have the right amount of equipment on board, to make sure that they're abiding by laws in a safe manner, not causing wakes, damaging boats, you know, coming near swimmers who are in the water. So obviously the common thing is skiing, and we're going to see a lot more skiing, wakeboarding, and tubing this year because Folsom Lake is closed at 5 miles an hour. So you got to have an orange flag, and you got to have a designated flagger. The driver cannot be your flagger. You have to have a designated flagger over the age of 16, and they need to make sure that if someone's in the water, the flag's up. As soon as that person's out of the water, you tow them behind them, the flag goes down. As soon as they go down, you put it back up.
Mike, could you do me a favor and talk to jet skiers for a second? Because when I'm in my boat and it's a busy day, jet skiers come out of nowhere. I've tried.
Get off my lawn.
I try and keep my head on a swivel anyway.
That's right.
And I get it. I've been on a jet ski. They're a blast. But
They're
sometimes I think they don't realize just how fast they really are going.
Yeah.
And to just kind of pay attention to some of the basic rules out on the water.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. They are fun, and people don't realize. Usually, you'll see a jet ski, and they're going to take off right from the dock, or from the beach if they're right there. And like Derek was saying earlier, the same rules apply as far as the no wake zone, and they have to be 200 feet out. So you got to go slowly out so you're away from everybody. You got to be 200 feet away from the swim area or the dock, and you have to be 100 feet away from the swimmers. And we see that a lot. Around the marinas is the jet skis. Just, you know, they'll beach it and people are hanging out and switch riders and the guy takes off right away.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. Also with jet skis is you have to wear your life jacket at all times. That's not an option. It has to be on. It has to fit. They also have to have the lanyard connected to the driver's life jacket at all times. And then the same rules apply as far as the fire extinguisher and a sound signaling device.
Okay.
Now, Mike, you guys are out here how many days a week, personally?
We work 4-10 shifts, so we're out on the water about 3 days a week apiece.
Okay. And on your days off, are you in your boat? Or
not so much anymore, no. I do enjoy the water. I enjoy boating, and now I get to get paid for it. And I kind of leave it there as my work week, and I spend my time off doing other things now.
If somebody were to see this and said, that's what I want to do, I want to do that, what advice would you have for them? How do they get started?
Well, for us, so we're obviously deputies within the Sheriff's Department. So we go through the academy just like everybody else. We start in corrections, the jails, the courthouses, and we go out and do patrol. And every once in a while there becomes an opening on the reinforcement detail. Not too often because there's only 4 of us in the department. But
oh, you guys are like unicorns. So talk a little bit about the California Boater ID card, which is ultimately it's going to be required for everybody on the water.
Yeah, so about 3 or 4 years ago now, the state enacted a policy that everyone on the water at one point in there is going to have a boater card, like you mentioned. And really it's a boating safety card. It's not a driver's license. It can't be taken away. It is a program designed to teach boaters how to operate and safety and the safety required equipment. So right now, if you were age 40 or under, you need to have a California boater card. And it started at a lower age and it's been working its way up. So next January 1, it's going to go up to 45, but eventually it's going to be all citizens have to have one if you're on the water operating a boat.
Can somebody be fined if they don't have one?
Yes, they can. So that is an enforceable statute for us to give you a ticket if you're not, if you're of a required age where you should have one and you don't have one. And to get a boater card, it's pretty simple. The California State Department of Boating Waterways has these books. So you read through this book, and then there's a test you take on a Scantron. Take the test, send that Scantron in. There's an address on it. And then they let you know if you passed or failed. If you passed, you pay $10. Then they send you a card in the mail, and then you're a certified boater.
I like the fact that you don't pay until you pass.
Yeah, so you don't waste your money, right? So you keep taking it, and once you pass it, then you send your $10 in. Yeah.
All right. My last question is, how much sunscreen do you guys go through in a season?
Yeah, it depends on what boat we're in too. Is a big thing. So this boat is full cabin, and we have a boat that's further north. That doesn't have as much protection. So when we're on that boat, then we're A lot of sunscreen because we're out in the sun a lot more, and if we're in this boat, it's a little better.
Mike, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Derek,
Yeah, it was
nice
fun.
meeting
Yeah.
you.
You as well. Thank you.
Great to see you guys out here.
Thank you. Thanks for keeping everybody safe out on the water.
Absolutely. Be safe. Pat and Tom, talk with the badge.